Our guest today, Catherine Tallman, is going to talk to us about the Coolidge Corner Cinema. She's been a lifetime movie fan. She's from the Detroit area and moved to Boston in '87 for a job in financial services, where most of her career was concentrated. She lived in Brookline originally and was thrilled to find the Coolidge right down the block. She joined the Coolidge board in 2006, and in a movie-like transition became the executive director and CEO in 2013. She lives in JP with her husband, Peter Nordstrom. Kathy, welcome. Oh, actually, you're all set.
I think I'm okay with this. Ooh, look at that, Aiden. Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here on this beautiful day and with a bunch of people who are so interested in learning about the Coolidge. Let's see, in terms of where I can start, there's so much to talk about. Like, I really thought about how should I keep this to a limited amount of time, because I could talk about the Coolidge, which I will, and I'll give some highlights. I told Emma that I'd be more than happy to have this presentation sent out to anybody who might want to look at it later, so that you don't think that I'm going to the numbers too fast, or you can have a chance to refresh your memory. So as Bob said, I became the executive director in 2013. It's been an extraordinary, after spending my career in financial services, which I would have to say was not the most soul-fulfilling work. It's been really an amazing journey. I work with the best people. I work on behalf of an organization that I love and a product that I've just always loved. So it's been a real joy. Notwithstanding that little COVID blip, which was also a joy. Not, we were closed for 14 months, and it was hard for us to be apart, but some good things came out of it. I think we all have to feel that way. So this is, how many of you have been to the Coolidge? How many of you went to the Coolidge as children? Oh my goodness, I thought so. This is so fabulous. This is one of the things I really love about being there, is when somebody comes up to me and says, I came here when I was 6 or 7, and I'm here with my grandchildren today. That says so much about the Coolidge's role in the community and how it just continues to be so important. So today we are, as you probably would guess, a beloved community gathering place. The theater started as a theater in 1933. The building was built as a church in 1906. So it's worked out really well for us, because the sound and acoustics in Movie House 1 are great. So we've had a number of musicians there. We're not a live performance venue, but we have had musicians periodically, a jazz group or Berkeley, or the School of Berkeley School of Music Orchestra, or we had Jake Dillon there, and every musician says, wow, the acoustics in here are great. That's because it was a church and they had a big organ. So who knew? That organ's gone, but the acoustics are there. We are truly a leading Greater Boston cultural institution now. I mean, I think most of you, since you appreciate the Coolidge, you probably appreciate film, understanding the value of film as an art form, and the way we embrace film and use it for education and use it for community development and connectivity. I look at us as we're like not that different than the Huntington Theater, or it's just a different art form, and it's frankly much more accessible than a lot of the other higher end art forms. But I'm trying to really, especially with our expansion, I'm trying to expand the fact that we are a cultural institution and we should be perceived that way. We have, as of today, we have 6 theaters. We have the old building, the Grand Dame Movie House 1, that has 430 seats. The upstairs Movie House 2 that has 200 seats, that was the balcony. So when the theater was built, it was one big theater. Movie House 1 had a balcony, it seated 1,200 people, and then somebody bought it in the 80s and it kind of twinned it and turned the balcony into a theater. Then we added a 45-seat theater, a 27-seat theater, and a year ago in March, we opened our 14,000 square foot expansion that has 2 new theaters and a lobby, and is a lot more user-friendly, so people can buy tickets and concessions more readily and not have to wait outside. We have like 9,000 screenings a year. When you think about it, it's a really busy business, because we're open 7 days a week. We do 4 or 5 films a day in 6 theaters, and then we have a lot of speakers and a lot of programs. We also have an education center now, so there is always something going on there. I'll get into some of the other things later, but last year we showed 528 films. There's literally, you could be there every night of the week and see something different, see something appealing. And the other thing I love about what you can see at the Coolidge is you can see people you know. It's really uncommon to go there and not see someone that you know. And that happened to me when I moved here, and I didn't know anyone. I moved here for a job, and I found the Coolidge, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I was going there all the time by myself. And then I started to realize it's like everybody here knows each other, and it's a really comfortable place to be. And I think that says a lot about the Coolidge's role in the community and how we're differentiated from other theaters, other cinemas. We are definitely nationally recognized. We're considered one of the top cinemas in the country, independent cinemas in the country, which is something to be very proud of. We are a national leader in using film to educate, and that's really important to me. It's been important to the Coolidge for a long time. We'll talk about that a little bit down the road, but we have 280,000 attendees every year, which is a pretty hefty amount of people coming in the door. It's similar to, again, the Huntington Theater or something like that. So in terms of social impact and artful impact, we're very similar to other organizations. This new expansion opened last March. Has anybody been to the new expansion? Look at that, woo! It was a long time coming. We were just about ready to launch the campaign when we instead had to deal with COVID, and our community really pulled us through COVID. Literally the day after we closed the theater, I started getting checks from people saying, please pay your staff, I hope you're okay. And that really kind of kept us going through that time where none of us knew when the end would be. We thought it would be sooner. And we were all working from home. So the mail came to my house at home, and I would put it in 2 stacks. And I put the bills in 1 stack, and then I would put the checks in another stack. And I'd go through all the bills, and I'd write all the checks, and then I would turn to the donations. And the donations were, almost everyone wrote a note saying how much they loved the theater and missed everybody and hoped we were okay. And that was where I always knew the Coolidge community was strong, but it's so strong outside the building itself. It's such a powerful force. And I joke about when one day I opened an envelope that had a check for $50,000 in it, which was like stunning. And in that same day, there was an envelope with a yellow piece of paper and a $5 bill taped on it, and handwriting that said, "This is all I can afford. I hope it helps." I wrote like a very deep-hearted thank you note to that person, but that says a lot too. Everybody's got an investment in the Coolidge. The $16 million annual economic impact, the Americans for the Arts has a calculator where you put in your budget and your attendance and your local population, and it gives you this number that estimates your jobs, the impact you have, like the Coolidge in the Coolidge Corner Theater, the Coolidge Corner neighborhood. We send a lot of people to restaurants, a lot of people to retail shops, and so there's a huge economic impact from every arts organization. We are a nonprofit, and our mission is to entertain, inform, and engage, building vital community through film culture. And everything we do ties into that mission. We're a nonprofit, we're tax exempt, we're mission driven, we can accept donations, we rely on donations. 50% of every ticket sale goes back to the distributor, so it is a really hard business to make we're not oriented to making money. Everything we would do would roll back into our mission, but it's a very slim margin, which is why a lot of theaters have gone down, and people think you make money on concessions. Well, you can't make enough money on concessions unless maybe you're a giant operation. So we're fortunate to have a supportive community. About 10% of our budget comes from contributions, and we couldn't live without our community support. So thank you. I'm sure many of you in here are donors, and I really appreciate you doing that, and also you're probably members as well. One of the things outside, like within our broader community, we've formed a lot of partnerships with other organizations, arts organizations, and this is where we can offer a lot more programming than just feature films or repertory films, because we'll partner with these organizations and show a film that works for both of us, and then we both are bringing people in. Like the Huntington, since I've mentioned it before, we will work with them on their season lineup, and then we'll pick films that kind of support that lineup, and then they'll show a film, we'll show a film, and they'll come and talk about how it relates to the play that they're showing. One of the things that's not on here is, that I'm really proud of, is last summer we established a partnership with Tanglewood Music Center, and their fellows came and performed their silent film night in Movie House 1, and that was just a real thrill, and they're coming back again this August. Let's see, we do the Boston Jewish Film Festival, we do National Center for Jewish Film, we have the Goethe Institute from Boston. I mean, we try to reach a lot of different populations and offer something for everybody. Oops. In terms of national impact, we started our Science on Screen program. I hope some of you have been able to attend those. They're just amazing. We started it in 2005. The idea is to pair a film that is not, where the science isn't all that obvious, and then have a speaker come and give an introduction about the science that's embedded in the film. So this past Monday, we showed Shakespeare in Love, and we had an MD from Harvard come and talk about the social conditions in London during the time that Shakespeare was writing, and the amount of syphilis that was around and the plague, and so it was really very fascinating. So the movie's really fun, but then you have something ahead of time that gives you some insight into the science. We started that in 2005, the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, which is focused on impact to the public on understanding science and contributions of science. So they started to award us grants. So we've now, and then we re-grant to other cinemas. There's probably 500 independent cinemas in the country. Many of them are like the Coolidge in terms of being community-oriented, being dependent on their donors, and really, kind of being very differentiated from mainstream cinema. So we have a connection with them, and Sloan gives us a block of money every 2 years, and then we re-grant. We have an application process, and those theaters send in, we usually get about 80 applications. They're the most amazing applications to read, and they're so fun because you think that, not to be so stereotypical, but it's pretty easy when you get a theater in Mississippi and you're like, and then you read how thoughtful it is and how they do have a scientific community there, and they do have, certainly for me, and I think a lot of us that live around here, we're like, what are these people doing? And do they actually have that kind of access? And we have theaters in Juneau, we have them in Florida, in New York, and Honolulu, and Washington, D.C. So we've awarded grants to theaters in 45 states. We're almost there, getting to 50, but we can't find a theater in North Dakota. We'll keep trying to do something like that, but we're really proud of that. The Coolidge Award, some of you have probably been to one of the Coolidge Award ceremonies. We're really proud of that. It allows us to honor really remarkable people like Meryl Streep and Jane Fonda and Michael Douglas, and certainly one of the highlights of my career has been to be able to like to stretch it, to hang out with those people. I mean, like spending time with Jane Fonda was just a real thrill, and also Lee Ullman, Ruthie Carter for design. I mean, it's amazing, and it helps you realize too that people come in, they all love cinema, they all came up from a really tough place to try to pursue their careers, and then we are honoring them, and everybody is quite happy about it. We receive a lot of national press attention, Washington Post, MSN, USA Today. So we were covered in the Times of Israel for showing a film, No Other Land, which I'm happy to address questions about that later, which you may have. But so we often are called by different media outlets, like, hey, we are the go-to, certainly one of the go-to places in the country for, if you want to know something about what's happening in independent cinema, they'll call us. So why did we expand? The business was inherently, and it still is, frankly, but it's capped. Like, we only had so many seats. We had 700 seats. You can only sell those seats for so much per ticket. In the meantime, expenses keep going higher and higher, and we can't raise our ticket prices to match that. So we needed to really kind of balance. We needed more income. And so that was one of the motivations. A big motivation was we wanted to expand programming because we had 4 theaters, 2 were very small, and this will kind of explain part of the film business, how it operates. When we book a film, the distributor requires us to show it like 5 times a day, 7 days a week. So when you see something and you're like, why is this the same movie for so long? That's because we have to abide by distributor terms. And so when you have like a smaller amount of theaters, you don't have as many options as you'd like to show a variety of product and to move things in and out. And sometimes we'll move things out before they've stopped drawing audience because we have to bring something else in. So having 2 more theaters has helped a lot. And this was my personal priority, was to add an education center. So my colleagues and I had gone to a couple of other colleague cinemas, one in Bryn Mawr, one in Nashville, and we knew that they had pretty expanded education programs. And one of the things they emphasized was you have to have a dedicated space, because once distributors know you have a screen, they will not let you not take their film. I mean, they own it, basically. So I had to really have a discussion with the board and say, we need this space. It's not going to be revenue generating. It's going to be mission driven. It's really important. And one of the reasons, which is why I'm so excited to look out here and see you today, I came back from one of our field trips and I said, you know what? We need a place, because I saw that population there. We need a place for people to go. I mean, we need a place for people to come and gather and learn together and connect and communicate and develop friendships. And look what you're doing this here. And this was a model for what we wanted to replicate in the Coolidge Corner area. We do offer film seminars. We'll have a seminar before a big screen classic, for example, like, what could have been Shakespeare in Love, which was Science on Screen. But we could never really do very many of them before, because we would have to take a movie off screen in one of the small theaters, which the distributor doesn't like. And so we could only have 45 minutes, and then we had to hurry up, and then we had to get people into the big theater. So now we have that education center. It seats 50 people, and we can do all the seminars we want to do, and there's no pressure for people to get out and get into the movie. One of the things we really wanted to do, I should also say there's some information on the table. We also do multi-week courses. And in the past, we could only do those courses on a weekday. So because we couldn't, as soon as the theater opens, those theaters are taken. So now we can do these weekly things in the evening, in the afternoon. I know John Kingsdale just finished one that my husband had taken on journalism and film that was just terrific. Right now we're just finishing up a early film history. We're starting one on music and film in the next couple weeks. And I know I met the instructor somewhere at a concert, and then I was talking with him and I said, you would be great to teach a class at the Coolidge when we have this education center. So he's doing that. So if you're interested in any of the education programs, look online at our website. You'll see plenty to pick from. The other thing we really wanted to do was build and launch a program targeted to middle and high school students. And that was just kind of like, we saw our colleague theaters doing something similar. We weren't sure how to do it. But one of our goals in the strategic plan associated with the expansion is we wanted to hire a director of education who could conceive and launch this program. I have a slide at the end that's more about it, but, what's happening? Oh, let me see if that was the reason to expand. On that public school program, I have a slide at the end, but I'm just so, amazed at how this has taken off. So we hired a director of education 2 years ago in the summer. She, in the short time she's been there, including having a baby, she developed this whole curriculum working with a consortium of high school teachers from Brookline, Boston, Newton, Lexington, and they got together and they developed a curriculum based on they picked films that would align with the core curriculum requirements at those high schools. So whether it's language or humanities or science. So we pay for, no, where did my picture of my new place go? What's that? Point it back there? Oh. I'm trying to go back. Okay, well, you saw the picture of the new building. Oh, there it is. So that's the new building. I'm sure you've seen it, either been there or driven by it. Long time coming. It has certainly fulfilled what we've wanted to do. Like, it's really nice to have people to be able to buy tickets and wait in line inside instead of being out in the rain. It's really nice to have more theaters. It's much more accessible, if you can imagine. In an old building, it was really hard to accommodate people with special needs. The aisles are really narrow, that you can't get a wheelchair through there, and there's really wasn't much that we could do about it. We did, as part of our building permitting process, we converted a restroom, a men's restroom, into an accessible restroom that was on the second floor. There hadn't been an accessible restroom, but for the most part, the existing theater is pretty challenging to get around, I think. The new theater has all kinds of access, a lot of restrooms, which is also something we wanted to do. So it's just a much user-friendlier place. Well, I'm telling you, nobody wants me to stay on that slide. So we really believe that film is just an outstanding base for education, for conversation. I mean, I'm sure when you go to the movies, if you're with someone or if you just run into someone, you want to talk about it. And you want to talk about, maybe it's, did you like it, did you not like it? A lot of times it's like, what did you think about that? And I thought this and I thought that. And a lot of the films that we show are, kind of rich with topics for conversation and opportunities to learn. And when it comes to like the high school students, it's great because we're showing movies they never would have seen because they're going to go to the big box movies. And then we're having a facilitated conversation about it. They're talking among themselves, and in a way, I think film makes it so easy to talk to people because you've just both seen something. It's a very accessible form of consuming information. So, and then they also, because we have students from Boston, Brookline, Newton, Arlington, those classes are now getting very mixed, and so it's really wonderful to see kids from Boston interacting with kids from Brookline. I think I may have said this already, but so part of our program is we pay for transportation, we pay to bring kids in on buses, we provide lunch, and we're funding that through donations. We have found a lot of interest from foundations in supporting education, so it's been so enriching, and we just finished our first semester and had 2,200 students. This is just an example of some of the film seminars we would do, so these are the things that are like 45 minutes, an hour before film. It gives, and we always have, there's so many great film teachers and critics in the Boston area, so we always have a great person presenting it. Again, the education classes, a few that I mentioned, but I think it's, they're all representative of the things that we want to do and that there's something for anybody. I already told you quite a bit about this, the Coolidge classroom. This is really like, it's just very rewarding. It was rewarding to expand an organization that has meant so much to me, and to know that through that expansion, it has a bigger community on the impact on the community, and also that it is more likely to be there for generations after me. And to know that we have really established this education platform that takes film and turns it into an opportunity for learning and communication and empathy it just means a lot to me. So now I've blown through that. I try to just give the basics, but I'm sure there are a lot of questions about our business so I'm happy to talk about anything. John.
We're going to need a mic over there. We do need the mic, John.
Thank you, John.
So I have a question, and I'm not a good listener, so forgive me if you already touched on this. But one thing I really would like to do more of is have an after the film discussion amongst viewers without necessarily taking a class. I mean, I've taken a class, as you mentioned. Is that impossible? Is there any way to think about doing it other than informally, just grab a few friends and say, let's go have a drink?
Yeah, it's a great point, and it's not impossible. I think given that we've just been open for a year and we're still trying to get our feet under us, we have that space upstairs. And our idea at the outset, and I think it's something that we can start to pursue, is to have a place where people can go and have an after-film conversation. We could have coffee up there, we could have wine up there, but I think that's exactly what we want to do, and that is part of building community. I know you will. I will too. Yes.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. So I know a young woman who's just getting her bachelor's in filmmaking and psychology, and is coming home soon, and her parents are like, well, number one, they might like to have a celebration somewhere where they could show her films, or I was wondering if that's something that would be possible at the Coolidge, or do you have a community of people who have some preparation in filmmaking, would like to use it and screen it and stuff like that? Do you have any programming like that?
We do actually. Thank you for asking. We do have now that we have more space, we do have a pretty robust rental program. So our theaters, all of our theaters, especially the small ones, can be rented, and often are rented by somebody who wants to show a film. The education center can be rented. The theater next to the Ed Center is 58 seats, and there's a deck that goes outside and wraps to both the cinema and the Ed Center, and so it has been kind of popular for people to show a movie in Movie House 6, which is named after Lee Ullman, bless her, and then have an after party in the education center. So it's certainly renting a theater. If you look online, or if you talk to me after, we have those spaces available. In terms of budding filmmakers, which might be interesting too, we have an open screen program, and so you can find out about that on our website too, where filmmakers will come together, like, I don't know if it's once a month or twice a month, but they'll have a night where they can screen their own films with each other.
Hi, I'm Rhoda. Here I am, okay, sitting next to you. I am in awe of what you presented here today and the complexity of it. And the complexity of it, it's just amazing. So I have two questions. Was your background in film arts that you have so much understanding and creativity? And the second question is, you talked about films for diversity. Do you bring adult diverse people into the cinema?
Could you give me more definition of that?
Okay, you're showing a film on Latin American farm workers or whatever, or people from Venezuela. Or diversity in America. Do you bring diverse couples,
Audiences,
individuals, adults into the theater?
Yes. We have a pretty deep focus on outreach because we really want everybody to come. And there are a lot of different communities that we try to program for. Most recently, in fact, if you're going to the theater, there's a new film, A Nice Indian Boy, that is just wonderful. It was directed by an oncologist at Dana-Farber. And it's a rom-com. It's very fun, but we've had a lot of Indian people come in for that, for example, and that also attracts our regular audience. We have a lot of, we work with the Russ Boxbury Film Festival, and I mean, there is a lot of effort. What we don't have, even now that we have more theaters, there's not always enough room to bring in, we can bring in one movie at a time. And we have these festivals that are somewhat focused, but we want more and more diverse people in the audience. I mean, one thing I would note that's so kind of amazing is before COVID, my colleagues and I would say, oh my God, like, you know, everybody in here looks, well, not like them, but like me. And like, what are we going to do? How can we attract younger people? So we came up with this program called Rewind, and that was pre-COVID, and it was, we show a film from like the 80s that this group of like 20 or 30 somethings had seen maybe at pajama parties, had never seen on a big screen. And then we would do it on a Thursday night, and then we would have an after party. And we would provide sushi or whatever, wherever the restaurant was, we would provide food to provide an environment for young people to come and see a film, enjoy the Coolidge, and then interact with each other. So we're always looking for ways to bring people into the theater. And you asked about my background. So from the time I can remember, I loved movies. And I mean, probably many of us were similar in terms of like, I would go to the movies every Saturday. That's what we did. I think it cost 25 cents and we were there all afternoon, and that's what we did. And then the special events I can think of when I was young were, you know, like my aunt taking me to see Mary Poppins, and there were great theaters in downtown Detroit, big, glorious theaters like the Coolidge, and they're, you know, pretty much gone now. And so the movies were like something routine and also something really special. And then when I was in, high school, college, of course, during the dating time, you go to movies all the time. There was a theater on the college campus I was on. I went to movies all the time. And whenever I was picking the movie, like in my friend group, you know, it was like, oh, it's your turn to pick the movie. Oh, it's going to be subtitles. It's going to be, and then we would do that, and then they would say, that was really good. And I was like, yeah, open your mind a bit. So then, it wasn't easy to find a lot of great independent film in the Detroit area. I would go to the Detroit Institute of Arts. Another small world piece is the Boston film critic Jay Carr used to write for the Detroit Free Press. And so when Jay recommended something, in the column, I would like, okay, I'm going to go see that. And then I moved here. I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I moved here for a job in financial services. I'm a CPA, MBA. I kind of skipped that part. It's probably just like denial. It worked out well, but so I spent my career in public accounting and then finance, and then I just serendipitously got a job in Boston. I worked for the Tallman company, L. Tallman, who did regional mall development. And there was a firm in Boston that put together a package of 27 of those individual packaged malls, put it in a big package, and had the General Motors Pension Fund invest in it. So I was hired by Tallman to do the financial reporting for that investment. And through that, I met the guys from Boston who had made that deal. And then I ended up getting asked to move to Boston, which was really, on one hand, challenging for someone who hadn't lived anywhere else and who was in the Midwest, but all at the same time, I was like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life here, and I can always come back. And now I've been here almost 40 years, and I can't imagine living anywhere else. So the good thing is, and I love film, my colleagues could talk like in detail about 1939, this film, these people and that people. I was like, wow, I pretty much, they look to me because I have some knowledge, but mostly I know what I like, I know what our audience is going to like, I have a deep appreciation, and when we do put together programs, like our Big Screen Classics program, we program that as a group. So we have this big whiteboard, and we put yellow stickies up, and we have a whole bunch of suggestions. We start with a spreadsheet, all the suggestions that people would want to see for a Big Screen Classic. Then we sit down, and we show them every week. So we're laying them out from like April to November. So I can certainly contribute on that front. But the thing that I really bring to the table, which has been great, is a business background. So it's an arts organization. It's not uncommon anymore now for people to understand that arts organizations really need to be run like businesses, and they need people who can focus on the financial component, focus on the marketing component, the development component. So it's just been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me to apply everything I learned and in a much more fulfilling way.
Hello. Hi, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you also for hosting all the wonderful film festivals you host, like the Jewish Film Festival. And I was lucky enough to go to see the films that you were showing as the National Center for Jewish Film Festival, which was fabulous.
Lisa, yeah.
Lisa and
Yeah.
Sharon, who are Brookline
Right,
people.
yeah, wonderful.
Fabulous. The opening night was the Elie Wiesel film, and that was just wonderful. I was with a friend who is disabled. She uses a walker. And by the time we got there, the 4 seats in the handicap section in the big room were filled. And that was very disconcerting. The festival people helped us by bringing in a couple of folding chairs, but it made us wonder why that hasn't been addressed in the midst of all of the renovation and the fundraising that has come on, because it was very hard for her. She could not get down the aisle to
Right.
get to seats. And so we really had to improvise, and it was surprising.
I really appreciate that input. I heard something similar recently from a man who was looking for a place, and in that case, we were video recording conversations, and so those seats he thought were gone, and I said, actually the videographers are instructed not to block those seats, but I agree with you. I mean, I think that having 4 handicapped seats in a theater of 400 people is not adequate, especially given where we all are. I mean, I've had plenty of time on crutches and plenty of time with immobility. And so I'm pretty tuned into how people need to be able to get around. I will take that back. I will figure out how we can better accommodate people. Thankfully, in the new theaters, we have plenty of space and plenty of room, and so we could take care of it there. A pleasure.
Are you feeling any impact directly or indirectly from the current political environment?
Thank you for asking that. Fortunately, we don't depend on federal funding. I mean, I will say during the COVID closure, every arts organization, movie theater, and museum benefited from a big federal grant program, and that included the Coolidge. That's the only reason any of us are surviving. But that was before. Thank goodness it's not now, because that money wouldn't be forthcoming for any of us, and I'm sure the current administration would just love it if every arts organization just went down. So we've gotten a couple of grants from the NEA, National Education Association. They're small, and so far the one that we had gotten, it came through, so we did get that payment. So I'm not concerned about being dependent on federal money. Someone asked me early on in this administration if I worried about censorship of film, and similar to what this administration has been doing around books. And I was like, I mean, we hope not. I mean, we're one of the things that I think that we are definitely a bastion of sanity. We're a place where people can come and they can think and they can see films from all over the world. And so we haven't felt that impact yet. I think certainly with all the cuts on these social services, I would expect that our donors would be a little torn about where to put money. If you're choosing between keeping your local cinema going or feeding children, you might have a hard time making a choice between those two things. I think we'd all agree, it's been 5 minutes since that administration has been in it. It's whoa, how many other things can this guy turn over in the course of 30 minutes? So we haven't seen it. I mean, right now, I think what we see is people just really, really appreciating what we have to offer, and that we have a place where you can come and you can kind of see other visions and other views, and also just relax, just be entertained. So here's hoping. I think if it gets down to censorship of movies, we probably have bigger issues to worry about. Thank you for the question. Yes? Oh, yeah.
Hold on. Wait a minute.
Yeah, Suzanne Jacobson.
And I really missed it. I loved it. It was a Sunday morning during football season. So once a month we would go, and I would be very happy that Sunday. It was just wonderful seeing films that were not were not being already, and then having the discussion about it. It was wonderful.
We dropped that program several years ago, as you know. I mean, I would say as an alternative, there are we often will do word of mouth screenings that don't necessarily, to John's point, have an opportunity for people to converse and exchange ideas afterward, but we'll often have a director or like, let's see, recently we had, well, I told you about the nice Indian boy. We had, so I think that we try to do other things where we have conversations after, panel discussions after, and some audience Q&A, but not that particular program.
Any more questions?
Oh, I love talking to you. Keep asking.
If not, thank you very, very much, Kathy, for
Thank you.
wonderful, wonderful talk.
I really appreciate being here. Thank you.
It was great.
And I wish you all a happy Passover. Thank you, Rhoda. Thank you. I can talk.
You know what?